for people of the world. Hello and welcome to Marketing as a Foreign Language, episode 213. Have you ever had a snafu in your life? Have you ever had a snafu? Me and my good friend Richard Lyntton just had a snafu, little chrome snafu, but don't worry, we figured it out. Last time we were talking to Richard, he told us the story of, I don't remember, it was junior high. I feel like it was junior high. I feel like it was our class. I could be right. I could be wrong. And anyway, there was a bully in his life. There was some guy that was going to mess with his world, and he orchestrated an attack. And he won said attack. He punched that dude right in his face. Kids, if you're listening, I'm not saying punch him in the face. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying punch him in the face. But what I am saying is if you go on to become a tank commander in the same part of the, I'm not sure how you would say it, armed forces, as Prince Harry, then you might want to punch someone in the face. Don't punch people in the face. Totally kidding. I do not condone violence, but absolutely love our guest today. We had an incredible conversation. We have so much more of his life yet to cover, so you're in for a treat. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you by reintroduction to the one, the only, Richard Lyntton.
We're finally together at last.
Yes,
we're together at last.
We've done it, and
that was a serious rigmarole. Technical.
You know what?
It's so good. So good.
This is how it goes. I expect nothing less when I wake up in the morning. I think to myself, "What do you have in store for me today, universe?"
The first rule of cables is they always get knotted, and it should be the first rule of Zoom is that it never goes right the first time.
You know what? So c'est la vie. So we've got a lot of life to cover. If you have not yet listened to the first episode that I had Richard on, go back and listen to it. A lot of really interesting stuff. His book is Informed. Look at that gorgeous thing. Is that a hardcover?
Yep, that is.
Let's go.
Isn't that beautiful?
Thank you,
Thank you, my book designer, Jay.
Yeah, go Jay. Let's go. Hashtag Jay. So, Richard, because he was a tank commander. So imagine three guys. And isn't the guy that drives the tank, he has to be in a very, I don't know, sexual position.
Do you remember that? So he literally gets in, and people won't be surprised if they read my book to find out there's a few more tank commander sequences in my book. And even the second book, which I'm just finishing now, there's a lot in Bosnia with tank commanders. So that's why, because I was a tank commander. But yeah, if those of you don't know, if you've never driven a tank, you literally sort of climb in the front and you close the hatch down, and you're literally lying down, and there's a lever, a left stick and a right stick. And so one lever stops the tank track, which means it swivels, and that's how you get it to go in the other direction. And then even more, I was kind of horrified. You'd think I knew this before I joined the British Army and became a cavalry captain, a tank in the Royal Armored Corps, which is basically cavalry. When the first time I got into a tank, I didn't realize that the gunner, this was when I was about, I don't know, this is 20 years ago, but I didn't realize that the gunner sits right between the commander's legs. Now, I knew I was going to be a commander, so I knew I had my head out the top. And the commander and the gunner literally is sitting right between my thighs, as it were. I thought, oh my God. And then you realize that if you look at your seat, there's a little hole in the seat, which you lift up, and there's like a bucket underneath in case you need to go to the bathroom when you're closed down for 3 days. Not that we ever did that, thank God. Because unless you were under some sort of chemical warfare attack, there was always time to get out and take a what. So the only guy in a tank, because there's 4 people in a tank, that gets the break is the loader, who is on my left, the tank commander's left, and he can actually stand up and lean, and he has all the ammunition, and he makes the tea, and so it's a crazy time in that.
You know what? Just thinking about it makes me claustrophobic.
It is. It's pretty scary.
How do you breathe? I mean, they're not really concerned about air quality in this little.
There is some sort of filter, believe it or not. It sort of reminds me when we actually, so skipping ahead slightly, I can't remember where we left off, but when we
left off when you punched someone in art class.
Well, we'll skip a bit. We'll skip the Russian bit for a second. We can always get that. But
we can always go back.
As we're on tanks, so I'm in the British Army. I've gone to Sandhurst. I've gone to the Royal Armored Corps. I'm a tank commander. I'm a second lieutenant, and I get to my regiment in Germany, and they say, right, Gulf War I, we're all going to war, hooray! And I'm like, oh my God, really not quite what I signed up for.
That's exactly what you signed up for.
No, I signed up for the adventure training, climbing mountains in Germany and learning to ride horses, all that stuff.
No.
But yeah, no, train, killer, retire. They did warn us. That was the final, the whole point of being an army officer. But I always remember when we got to the Gulf War I in Al Jabal in Saudi Arabia, and we're ready to sort of go and find our tanks, because our tanks have been shipped over from Germany. And so we arrive in this encampment in Al Jabal, and everyone's thinking, am I going to die? This is a war. How long till I get to the front line? And the first time they took us to our tanks, our tanks were sort of lit in a little tank park in the middle of the desert. There were these Vickers Defense System guys with t-shirts and jeans on, and they were putting all this, what they call up armoring. So it's like metal plates about 3-6 inches thick, and they were literally bolting them onto the sides of the tank. And we said, what's that for? And they said, oh, it's up armoring. And we said, but we were told the Challenger tank is impenetrable, like even by armored piercing rounds, which are the super duper rounds. We were told that nothing could pierce this tank. And then suddenly we arrive at our tanks and they're bolting all these extra plates on. It was pretty scary.
So, all right. The psychological devastating effects of putting yourself in harm's way are fairly well known in the psychological community, and just basic common sense as a human being. And having never been in the armed forces and only using my imagination to try to get there, I can only think of what it's like to wake up. Did you ever feel like you were waking up in hell? Like, oh, I'm in hell.
I mean, I feel like it wasn't really for me. I mean, you hear these like special forces soldiers, and they just go after war on all these operations. I mean, I had a few close calls, and it was like more than enough. I mean, I say that. I mean, I had Gulf War I, which was pretty dangerous, and then I had Bosnia, and there was sniper fire and shell fire. Like there were 1,500 shells landing in the city of Sarajevo every day, and I came close to one of those shells probably about twice in 3 months. So it wasn't too bad, but when it was close, it was like 30-40 feet away, and so a shell just lands.
And so let me understand that. And by shell, do you mean like so the shell of
a mortar round
that explodes?
A bomb. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so it blows. Yeah.
And it leaves what they call they used to call them the Sarajevo Roses. So the pockmark in the ground is like a rose with a flower with petals, because of the force which it detonates the concrete. So you'd walk around Sarajevo, and this was as a United Nations peacekeeping military observer, and there would be these pockmarks, and they go, oh, Richard, Sarajevo Rosa, and so anyway, so these Sarajevo Roses, there were 1,500 of those every day in the city. Now, of course, we were all over the place, and I lived in a sheltered part of it. But yeah, so I mean, just talking about danger, so I came close a few times, and then again when I was in UNTV. This is a whole other story, but this was many years later. I worked for about a year or two later. I was now a civilian. I was out of the army, and we came across some ethnic cleansing, and basically what had happened was that the Bosnian Croats had ethnically cleansed the Croatian Serbs, and so there was literally like a burning village. Like every house was on fire. And then we had I was out of the army by this time, and we were working for I was working for UNTV as a producer, and so our job was to film these little stories. And we came across this burning village, not planning to or intending to, but basically we went in this one house, and this old lady took us to see her friend, and in fact it was her husband, and he'd been shot in the back of the head, and he was lying on his bedroom floor, and no one had moved him because she couldn't move him. The whole village was still on fire. They'd started the fires the day before, and she was just there all on her own. And there was no one to help her, like put her husband anywhere. And I remember filming this and thinking, we've got to film this, talking about, danger and fight or flight and just what you do in that moment. And I thought, well, we could sort of spend hours trying to help her, maybe bury her husband or whatever. But I just had this instinct that the more important thing right now is to get this on film and get the film out so that it can be shown on BBC and CNN and places like that. And then, so we literally filmed this poor old man in his pajamas lying in a pool of blood. And then she said, and come and see my friend. And so we went to the friend's house, and her husband had his throat slit. I mean, it was just unbelievable. And again, we got that on film. And then we're skipping way ahead here, but whatever, we're talking about danger. So
it doesn't matter. Just keep going.
Yeah. So then I think, well, I've got to get this tape out of here because there were refugees in the area. There's UN encampment in the area. So sensibly, and this is all, I guess, really do what you do when you meet these situations. And I stress, I'm an actor, I'm a coward. I don't like that kind of thing. I don't like danger. I just happened to get into this stuff when I was in the army. I prefer the peaceful life I have now, writing books, etc. But anyway, so then I thought we got to get this footage out. If the Croatian police or the soldiers of the army catches with this footage, A, they're going to take the footage, and B, they might even, shoot us or something. So we got the footage out on a UN helicopter that was going back to Zagreb, the UN headquarters. And then we managed to get an interview with the commander, the Croatian commander, who was responsible for this whole ethnic cleansing. So then I'm like, I've really got to put my best acting face on now, because I don't want him to know that I know. Because we'd seen, vehicles. We'd seen white vehicles like Jeeps in the area of this ethnic cleansing. So I thought, well, if I can get the Croatian commander to deny this, then that's kind of a good story, and we can show the two sides. So long story short, we did interview this guy. We got his denials, and we made this great story. We were UN TV. I was United Nations Television, but we also gave the footage, obviously, to CNN, Sky News. It was actually on international television. These pictures of the Bosnian Croats doing ethnic cleansing, because usually it was the other way around. Anyone who remembers the Bosnian War, it was always the Serbs are the bad guys. So we got that story out. We got the footage out. And then just to cap the story off, about 15 years later, probably 15 probably, I can't remember exactly, but the War Crimes Tribunal came to me in America here, and they literally flew me back as an unknown person. Like, I didn't have a name, I just had a number. They flew me back to The Hague, where this Croatian commander was being tried for war crimes.
The man you interviewed.
Man I interviewed. So they had my footage. My footage was in the Imperial War Museum. I think by that time they'd found it. They'd found the footage in the Imperial War Museum. And then they wanted this guy. And I think he got off in the end, sadly. But anyway, they flew me out there. And so there I was, like on the other side of the courtroom to this guy 10 years later. It was a very surreal experience. And there were other Bosnian people, testifying as well. But, they had me as the journalist who sort of witnessed this stuff. I couldn't tie it to him. I didn't have that kind of evidence. My job was simply to tell them what I'd seen, the burning houses, the massacre, as it were, the people just executed basically in their beds, literally. So anyway, so that was, yeah. So, I guess I told you that tale because it is kind of interesting. I think it was Churchill once said, every man thinks less of himself from not having joined the military or something like that, or served his country. I think that was what he said once. And I always remember that quote. And I thought, well, yeah, I wasn't for me, the army, but I'm sort of glad I did it, because I did get to be in those situations. And it's almost like it's not for anyone else. It's for you. You want to test, you want to see what you're like in those situations. And like I say, I did not, I didn't stay in the army very long. I was only in the army for about 5 years, but I kind of felt I had more than enough. And so I left, I left when I left, and then I joined UNTV as a producer. And then that's when the war was still going on. That's when when I was witness to those atrocities. There you go.
We are not our bodies. And so when we see someone face down who's been shot in the back of the head, that's the physical incarnation no longer here, right? So that's the end of that.
Yeah.
You're confronted with your own mortality when you see someone in that space, and you're asking yourself, well, should we help bury him? What's more important? Do we get this footage out? That feels like the most important thing. And you're also in the presence of a grieving, distraught,
correct,
I mean, insane person. I mean, I don't know how you don't go completely insane,
right,
as the wife of someone who's just been shot in the back of the head.
Yeah, I mean, this was war. This is what happens in war. But luckily, there were UN refugee people around. So what we did was we in fact, I think we had the UN refugee guy with us in our Jeep. So we knew that she would be taken care of, and that people would come and help her. But I mean, obviously she'd be a refugee. Her house was burnt down.
Yeah, I mean, taking care of, okay. Right. She'll have food and water, and water. Yeah. But is she taking, no, I mean, she's broken, she's just a broken person.
Yeah.
And I don't think, I was talking to a friend of mine, Rich, funny coincidence. I think that he tore his ACL. He has had a number of knee surgeries. And I'm just reminded that 200, 300, 500 years ago, I don't know, maybe you're 16 years old and you're just, I don't know, playing some game, and you tear that ligament in your knee. It's torn for your whole life. Your body doesn't repair that. It doesn't fix that. It just is what it is.
Yep.
And it's just a devastating consequence of being the owner of a body. And for you to witness someone, not in the movies, not sitting at home on your Tempur-Pedic flipping through Netflix,
right?
But the dead carcass of someone who's had their throat slit. That, I mean, that's not a bullet. I think a lot of folks can wrap their heads around pointing a gun at someone and pulling the trigger. Pulling the trigger is sort of a culturally, we're desensitized to the damage that causes, and it's sort of, I mean, a lot of kids play video games where they're killing people all the time. I certainly did. Growing up, I played GoldenEye 007 on the 64 all the time, and and I killed you.
I have a story about GoldenEye. Remind me. We'll go back to it.
We'll get to GoldenEye. But to slit someone's throat is so personal, and so, I mean, I don't know how to get there in my own head. You know what I mean? Maybe this person had a bunch of family killed by what they believe was the other side. Right. You know what I mean? Right. I mean, how else do you get there psychologically?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what it probably was. It was that's why the Bosnia War was so fascinating. Not only was I there to experience, but it was so close to home. I mean, it was literally, a ferry ride across from Italy is, former Yugoslavia. And then, Germans, more than any other nationality, would go on holiday in Croatia, Split, the Dubrovnik. I remember going on R&R, rest and recuperation, when I was in Bosnia, because I was there for about 6 months, and we literally got on this boat, and as we got on the ferry, everyone was like evacuating from Croatia, and everyone was pouring off the ferry, and literally like about 6 people got on the ferry to go south towards the war, and this was just like a 5-day vacation for me, because I've been there, I don't know, 6 months or whatever. But so we went down, and there was, the place was deserted, like the villages were deserted, the islands were deserted, and so the fact that it was so close, my friend literally got on his motorbike, came from England on his motorbike all the way across France to sort of Italy, which is where we got on the ferry to go on this little vacation while I was serving in Bosnia. It was so close. That was the point about the Bosnia War, is that, you had the Croats, sort of Catholic, Serbs, Russian Orthodox Church, Muslim, Bosnian government. So you had those 3 religions fighting in the heart of Europe. Tito, the leader, the Yugoslav leader, Tito. And by the way, for anyone who's ever heard of Tito, an interesting story is how he got the name was because in Croatian, in Bosnian, if you say ti, that means you. And then if you say to, that means there. So he had a reputation of going ti, to, you go there, you go there. And that's why he's called Tito. I don't know whether it's true, that story, but it sounds true because it fits with the language. But anyway, so that war right in the heart of Europe just is, still to this day fascinates me. And I always am glad. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm glad I had the experience. It was an interesting life experience.
So, all right. So I believe that the universe is a classroom.
Right.
And that it's very much like that scene in The Matrix where I want to say Lawrence Fishburne and Keanu Reeves, they'll just zoom into the dojo. They just download into the dojo and class is in session.
Right.
And when things are so difficult to understand because of the situation, I mean, we're literally flying around on a planet. Let's not forget that the sun itself is moving at over 500,000 miles per hour. It's just moving through almost nothing. Yep. And so we don't really feel the effects of that movement. And this idea that the sun is stationary is ridiculous. It's not. And then we're orbiting it, and it's orbiting the black hole at the center of the Milky Way galaxy. And that galaxy is one of billions of galaxies in a universe that at the ends of the universe are expanding faster than at the center. So are they being pulled towards other universes? We don't know. And so we are placed into this body. Is it by choice? This is always a fascinating question. Is it like a video game where you go and you pick your avatar? You're flipping through all these potential avatars, and you're like, that one.
Right.
And if that is the case, let's suppose it is that we choose our avatar. You're going, I'm playing Richard. Right. And let's say you can even see like the whole of the whole destiny, because some people refer to time as just another dimension, right? It's just like it has its own topography of experience. And so you choose Richard. Why? Why? Like, why? Let's just suppose, right? Like, I don't know if it's true or not, but let's suppose that you chose this. You're like, give me that one, right? And why in God's name would you do that?
You mean choose Richard or do the
choose to be you? The whole of it. Imagine you could see the whole thing, right? You're like, I want that movie, right? I want to play that game.
Right. I don't know, man. I don't know. If you saw your whole life, then that would sort of defeat the whole purpose, wouldn't it? Because then you sort of know, and half the fun of life is not.
But then you take the forgetting pill, right? That's part of this experience. Is like, you poop, and then you have, you know what I mean? It's just like, and then you show up, you're like, what's going on?
So, but wait, so what are you asking me though?
My question is, suppose for a second that you can choose the movie of your life, and you could have been Martin Luther King, you could have been Gandhi, you could have been, Joe Schmo in Afghanistan, you could have been anybody, right? Yeah. But suppose for a moment that you chose this,
right?
You're like, that's the one I want, and so you picked Richard. Why?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. International man of mystery and dreams. I don't know. I feel like I want to experience. I feel like I've always been. You like that one?
International man of mystery and dreams.
Well, people always said I was good at sort of reinventing myself because, I became the British Army officer, and then I became an actor. And I don't know, ever since I remember, I've always wanted to try things, which is why I studied languages. And I love the idea of, going to France and Germany and Russia. So I guess I wanted action, right? In a sort of simple way of putting it. There's a lot of action in this life, and there's a lot of experiences. And I remember at university, they used to call me Action Man. Now, you remember the little doll that you pull the string? They used to call me Action Man because I was always doing something different because I wanted to try everything. So maybe that's the answer. I kind of wanted to have a go at everything.
I love that. And
that's a heavy answer. You didn't. I mean, that's a heavy question.
You know what?
That one.
Look, you know what? I'm nobody. Okay. So international man of mystery and dreams. You gotta use that.
I will.
You gotta use that. You know what I mean? Because
I think I've used it somewhere. I can't remember where. I think I've used it already. Because either I came up with it or someone came up with it. But anyway, yeah.
You will use it again, and it will work.
Okay. I'll try it.
You will use it again, and it will work.
Oh, my goodness.
So
where do we go from here?
The moment that you're confronted with the dead bodies in Tibetan Buddhism, there's a whole culture around being with the dead.
Right.
And there's a lot of NDEs, near-death experiences, where folks describe themselves as a sphere of consciousness. Like, that's what I am. I'm a sphere of consciousness. I can see, I can hear, I can know things. I don't communicate via speaking, but it's like telepathy. People refer to it as sort of like a telepathy between you and other beings. They talk about like floating around the surgeon, seeing things they're not supposed to see. It's a whole thing, like the culture of people that have died and come back. So
do you believe in reincarnation?
So do I believe in reincarnation? Yes. I believe that this particular incarnation is by choice. I think we choose to come here. And it's like, it's a necessary yin to the yang of heaven or to a better place.
Right.
So essentially it is an incredible sacrifice for us to be here, which fills my heart with love for the people around me, because to be human is to suffer incredible, relentless, oppressive, constant, debilitating pain, anxiety, and anguish. This is what it is to be human.
Yeah.
And so if we choose to do this, now it takes on a sacrifice narrative of, oh, well, if you came here and you chose to do this, there is some benefit, and we may not see it, and that's part of the game. So imagine being a spirit and then choosing to come here and to do this. Well, why would we do that? There has to be a good reason why we would choose to put ourselves in this situation. And a lot of folks describe once they die, there is like a multitude of spirits that are like at the end of a marathon, and they're like, yes, like hooray, like amazing, like they're cheering you on, and they're so happy, and there's so much love. And so to me, it's a marathon. It's a challenge. It's, and one of the things that makes me more empathic is I don't think anyone comes out of this thing unscathed, man. And nobody. And if they say that it's not killing them or hurting them or, the whole nine, they're putting on that happy face for you.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, as an international man of mystery and dreams, what is your hope for the book?
Oh, the book. Well, it's thanks for asking about the book. We just actually did a 5-day promo, and it got to #1 in sort of espionage and men's adventure fiction and political fiction in Canada, France, UK. I mean, and people who know the book world, it goes up and down those things. But
let's go.
I got a few banners, but so the answer is, that's exactly what I wanted to happen. I wanted it to be not just here in America, but I wanted people to read my book around the world. And so they are. So I guess it's sort of on track, really. And I also know that, if you do the indie publishing, the self-publishing thing, you have to write 2 or 3 or 4 before you start to get any real traction. But to be #1 for like a few hours or whatever it was, get my little banner on Amazon. So that, and I mean, I guess obviously in an ideal world, it'd be great if a movie if a movie could be made. People keep saying, oh, it's so movie-like because it's set in, London, Moscow, Vladivostok, and Pyongyang, and it's sort of relentless page turner. So it's definitely very sort of Jack Ryan-y. But yeah, so those are some of the things that one would like to happen in an ideal world. But the main thing is just to keep selling it. And so I'm learning, as a sort of business entrepreneur, if you like, how to do the Amazon ad thing, the Facebook ad thing. There's something called BookBub's ads and featured ads, which people may know. Basically, the BookBub newsletter has literally millions of people on there, like several million people on their list. So if you get a BookBub featured deal, it's called, then your book's going to do well. And so this is what I had. I didn't have the US this week, the USA. I had UK, Canada, India, and Australia. And sure enough, I think I sold like 400 copies in one day, and it got to that #1 slot. So if anyone's writing or self-publishing, or even just publishing, and you don't know about BookBub, then you need to just educate yourself. Just go on. You can sign up for their newsletter in whatever genre you are writing in, and it's a big deal, basically. But thanks for asking about the book.
You will become so successful with this, and you're going to be so busy that when I ask you to
wait, this is live? This is live? No way.
Of course, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Of course it's
live.
We
keep people waiting.
No, we got Lisa said interesting. Caroline said hands down most interesting story told on marketing as a foreign language so far. And Leia's.
I was looking at these little things out of the corner, but I didn't dare look. I thought it was me telling an update. But I hope we didn't keep people waiting at the top there. Oh my goodness.
Oh no. We didn't go live until I started.
Okay, great.
Yeah, Leia, this is so fascinating. There will come a time, Mr. Lyntton, where you'll be so successful. You're just going to be inundated with this success. You're going to be so busy. You're going to be working on the third book. You're going to have there's going to be movie deals. There's going to be show deals. You're going to be talking to Netflix. And then I'll reach out to you, and you're going to go,
who is that?
It's not going to be funny at the time. It's funny now, but at the time it's going to be, right? Because I feel like I owe him. Like we've been talking, and it's been a thing. But I forgive you for feeling that way.
No way.
I totally get it. You're super busy.
I'll always be there for you.
Super busy, and just in advance, I forgive you in advance.
You're funny.
So, we can say that we moved from the art school fight. Okay.
Oh wow! You want to go back to the beginning again?
Well, we can say, because, again, this is a 30-40 minute episode.
I was going to say, we must be almost finished.
Yeah. So, to the Bosnian Croatian experience, some tank commander experience, war. So we left a gap, right? So we're going to cover that gap eventually. So it doesn't need to be sequential. This is mostly just for me because I'm going to re-listen to these episodes before I have you back. And then I go, okay, that's kind of what we covered and get a sense. And Richard disappeared. Just disappeared from the show. And he's back on the show for whatever reason. Is that part of your international man of mystery and dreams?
You're guessing.
You never know when I'm going to be on your show or not on your show. And so next time, perhaps we will dive into that. But we'll probably, Richard, we'll probably have 15, 20 episodes, to be honest with you, to even get the full story. So this is round 2. So for the folks that have been listening, hey, we love you, and I don't mean that in a flippant way. I really do. I love you. I really appreciate you. You swinging by. I'm proud of you. I know that you're suffering. I know that you're going through it right now. Keep your head up. Don't give up. You got this. And 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Come join us for chat. Shout outs to Lisa, Caroline, and Leia in chat today. We love the live comments. It's so motivating. youtube.com/Send It Rising, iTunes and Spotify. You guys know the drill. I want to make sure Richard gets the last word here. So Richard, what do you want to leave the fine folks with today?
Well, I think, peace. What did they say on the TV yesterday after the big verdict? We are all God's children. Let's leave it at that. We're all God's children.
That is correct. And I could not possibly agree with that sentiment more. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend Richard Lyntton on the show today. We will see you on the next episode. Bye for now.
Thanks for having me.